Yes, we're switching to English because my Hungarian is not existent. We can also switch to German or French if someone prefers. Yes, today we are going to speak about change management. And I'm not sure how many of you are working in, recruiting, or heads of talent, or, change manager, or just consultants. But basically the big topic today is going to be achieving hiring success. When we talk about change, what is your estimate of how many change management programs within organizations fail? What percentage of change management programs fail when getting kicked off by organizations? 90? Someone's optimistic here. Someone else? Another number? 20? 60, 50? Okay. So the big number is 70%. And it was done by a McKinsey study in 2015. And honestly, I'm not being too optimistic here. I don't think it changed. It was done in 2015. I think this is still the case. 70% of change management projects fail within the first 6 to 9 months. Why? This is due to lack of management support. So TA kicks off a project, it's beautiful, everyone's excited, and then management's like, no, we don't have the budget, we don't have the time, and also we have budget cuts, so you're gone. The other part is because a lot of the TA people have a lack of follow-through because they don't identify with the mission. So if you say we're optimizing our recruiting function, it's great, awesome. What are we actually doing? And I always like to, bring in the example of a baby. How do we teach a baby to walk? We're not just tossing the baby out in the world and saying, run a marathon. We're literally taking the first step with the baby. And then the baby's watching us. We're walking, hopefully. And then the baby is hopefully inspired, gets on their feet, and then, starts walking. We're guiding them. We're showing them where to walk to. So we're nurturing them. And this is exactly what change is. Change should never be a forced process. Change is inspiring, guiding, and nurturing. Also, what I think is important to preface with change is always that change always has an action and then a reaction. Because when you change something, you will get the reaction of your employees, your TA leaders, or the management. My name is Karin Philippczyk. I'm leading the hiring success strategy team within SmartRecruiters. We are talent acquisition suite. So yes, we have the ATS, that's the platform, it's beautiful. But at the same time, I'm more responsible for the strategy. So I don't want to go out in the world and say, let me just dump that technology on the customer, everything will be great. I'm responsible for coming in, talking to the customer, and making sure that platform is actually made for the customer. So I spent the past decade in recruiting. I started, like most recruiters, in an agency. It was beautiful. High volume hiring. Who's ever done it knows how great it is. And then it's even greater when you can leave that role. Then I worked for a Big Four where I did team moves. So I moved teams of 15 to 50 people at the same time. And then in my previous role, I was head of recruitment for an IT consulting company where I recruited Microsoft security people, which was beautiful. There are not a lot of them, so you always have an excuse if you don't find them. In that role, I implemented the platform SmartRecruiters, and this is how I ended up here, because I thought it's a lot more fun to consult a lot of companies instead of just the own I work with. Those are the rough numbers. So we have 4,000 plus customers all around the globe. I'm in the lucky position that they have not yet hired another one of me, so I can work globally. I work with Australian customers, with the US customers, the European base, so this is really interesting. And obviously, we're in all the countries. So let's kick it off with the workshop. In front of you, you see a piece of paper. That's called a scoping card for SmartRecruiters. And on this piece of paper, you see that we will be talking about one of the elements that I just want to make an example of. That is referral management. So referral management is basically if your employees refer someone else into your company, they're getting their friends to get hired within their same teams or in other teams. So it's all about referral management. On that piece of paper, you will see on the left-hand side, there it says current status or challenge. And I want you to think about your own company right now and write down one challenge that they have with referral management. If they don't do referral management, that's a challenge by itself. You can note this down as well. So just go ahead and write the sentence down, like what is the current challenge of referral management within your company today? I'll give you a couple seconds for that. Just one sentence. Then on the right-hand side, you see desired outcome. So if you could dream the perfect referral management function, how would it look like? So just take a second, think about it. What would be the desired outcome for referral management? For example, we don't have it, we don't want it, that's my desired outcome. Or is it, we want that 90% of employees are coming through referral management? What is your desired outcome? And then we're skipping to the metrics. So for referral management, how would you say, can you determine that you have a good referral management in place within your company? What is the metric you could use? So for example, for hiring, we often say time to hire is a good metric. What is it for referral management? And that's a quick exercise we're going to come to in a little bit later. And hopefully some of you have noted down some of the questions I've asked you. And then later we're going to come back to it and see how we can structure this a little bit better. How can we ask the questions a little bit better to find out the challenges instead of just going to our customer and being like, what's your challenge? Tell me everything about it. So once you've noted it down, please focus back on the slides. So basically, change management. Maybe some of you have heard before about the change management frameworks. Obviously, EDCAR is really popular. We have the 11th three-stage model, the McKinsey 7S model. Those are all models to drive change management in a specific way. So for example, to look at the challenge, to kind of freeze up all the resources that you have to convince people to go with the change. We at SmartRecruiters, we have our own change management framework. And that's called the hiring success methodology. Welcome. Take a seat. Within this hiring success methodology, we see the 3 circles. And let me just walk through them really quick. It's easy to understand, I promise. So basically, whenever we implement the platform with our customers, or if we drive a change management project, what we do is we look at the people. So what are your people currently doing? We also look at the process. What kind of process do you currently have in place? And also, what kind of technology do you have in place at the moment? Quick example, we want to optimize the CRM, so the talent pools we have within an organization. We look at the people who are concerned with that. So it's recruiting, it's hiring managers, it's also candidates because they're also in this talent pool, so they're concerned with it. Then we have the process piece. So how do we optimize the process for the talent pool? How do people come in? How do they go out? Can we delete them from the talent pool? Because in Germany, GDPR is really, really important. So is it here. So what is the process that we have in the CRM? And then also, what kind of technology do we have in place? And are we happy with it or are we not happy with it? And we say, once you align all 3 of those elements, you will achieve hiring success. So the ability to attract, select, and hire on budget, on time, the right talent. Something I always say, and this is just my personal input here, is hiring success looks really, really different for every single company. This is the definition of hiring success, and probably SmartRecruiters doesn't want to hear it. I don't fully agree with it because hiring success looks really different for different companies. But what we want to have is always the people, process, technology aligned. And whenever we change something within this circle of 3, we want to have a positive outcome on either the candidates, the recruiters, or the hiring managers. Because if I implement a new technology, it's great. I have my recruiters in place, but I have a 10-step interview process, which is something companies still do, trust me. Then we will challenge the customer and we're like, hey, look at this. You have a great technology, you have great people, but your process is absolute not good. I was going to say something else. So we want to have a positive experience for the candidates, the hiring managers, and the recruiters. Because for the hiring managers, it might be amazing that they have 10 steps. They can grill the candidates for 10 interviews. Yay, let's go. But ultimately, we know research says that after the 4th interview, there's no additional information we get from candidates. There's no use to it. So we will challenge the customer. Any questions about this part? And yes, you are absolutely fine to interject and ask questions. Welcome, Tony.
Hey, hello.
So, how do we even evaluate what companies are doing? Because when we look at a TA function, there are so many elements. There's the reporting, there's the mobile, there's the sourcing, what do we even do? So within SmartRecruiters, we established a survey that's called the Hiring Success Business Assessment. We send out that survey to the recruiters of a company, to the TA leaders of the company. Who's not allowed to fill it out are the hiring managers because they have no freaking clue what's going on in TA. So we always want to make sure we send it to the operative people that actually know what's going down. They're down in the trenches, they have the knowledge. And basically, we're asking them questions about the 3 pillars. The first one is talent attraction and engagement. This is basically how do we source? So it's also referral management, it's CRM. How do candidates come into our system? The second one is collaboration and selection. How do we go from the 100 candidates that we have to the 1 candidate we want to hire? So it's also the interview process. And then the third one is management and operating model, which is, for example, how are we integrated with other systems? How are we doing reporting? How do we train our people? And within these sections, we ask them questions about people, process, and technology. And this now sounds all really theoretical. So let me show you an example. So for the element sourcing and CRM, we asked them, who is responsible for sourcing? That's an important question. Is it still old school and your hiring managers are doing everything because we don't have budget for recruiters? Is it your recruitment? Or do you actually have sourcers? Then we ask for the process. How do you currently source candidates? So are you doing job boards? Are you going to a job fair, for example? And then we also obviously ask about technology. What kind of technology do you use? And this gives us a beautiful maturity framework. So in this framework, we see that maturities of companies can have 4 different levels. The lowest one is simple transactional. That basically means there's no real standardization in place. They don't really have a technology. Maybe they're working on Excel. But basically, a lower maturity means it's really standard. It's not really automated, which is absolutely fine because, as we know, I made the baby example at the beginning. We all start somewhere. So our companies sometimes start at level 1. And then we also look at the different pillars. So here you see the talent attraction engagement is a level 2. So that means they're focused and templated. It's a little bit higher. On the top right side, you see the percentile against the maturity model. What does this mean? You see here, the first pillar, we broke it down in sourcing, CRM, job advertising, etc. If all of these levels would be green and to the end, on this slide here, when it's going back, on the slide here, we would have 100% if we would have maxed out on all these elements. So here we see the first pillar, we see the second pillar. Here we see a little bit higher maturity, but we also see a little bit more dissatisfaction. So we always ask the companies as well, how satisfied are you with your TA function? And for me, this is a beautiful picture, but it doesn't give me the story behind the picture. So here I I go into the company and I'm asking them, for example, screening and review. Why are you dissatisfied? Because dissatisfied doesn't mean automatically that something is not good or it's negative. It means there is a misalignment between people, process, and technology. Because, for example, they might have, for screening and review, they might have SmartRecruiters in place, amazing technology, but at the same time, the process is not good, or they have not trained their people to really screen. So this is why it's so important to go into those companies and not just look at their maturity, because everyone starts somewhere, but also look at their alignment between the people, the process, and the technology part. And the third one, this is obviously an example company. And they're really dissatisfied with the third pillar, management operating model, really easy system. We see this a lot with companies who work on Excel sheets. I mean, they might have like really great reporting because it's on Excel, but at the same time, they're not super happy with it because it's all a manual process. Any questions so far concerning that piece of work? Okay, awesome. Then let's get to work. Referral management. So you'll have the sheet of paper in front of you for referral management. And before I ask you the question, what is the challenge within your company? So when I ask that question, and maybe someone wants to speak up, if not, that's absolutely fine. But what did you think about when I asked you for the challenge of referral management? What did you think about? Did you just think about referral management as a whole? Did you think about a specific topic within referral management? How did you go about it to think about this challenge? Anyone? Okay. Not a problem. Yes? Awesome.
I guess we pretty fine on it actually, but I was thinking on the simplicity of the process,
Mm-hmm.
the user friendliness, let's say,
Yeah.
then the outcome, so like the effectiveness of the whole process, and then basically our challenge in it, because we have 25% filled up from referrals, which is actually pretty good.
It's actually really good.
But our challenge is to make them use the system. Because
Okay.
we still get a lot actually via emails,
Mm-hmm.
and because we don't want to disengage them, we accept those, but that's a manual extra work for my recruiters team.
Exactly.
So our challenge is how to make sure that they kind of force them to use the system.
Yeah, exactly. And this is already, thank you for doing this, this is already a really good thought process. So you were talking about the process. Also, there's the technology implication, because they're not really using the system. And then there's the people part, because they should be using the system. So now I challenge you to fill it out again, the section current state and challenge, with the challenge of people, process, technology. So when you think about your own referral management within your company, what is the people problem? If you don't have one, cool, that's fine. What is the process challenge? And what is the tech challenge? And just kind of think about it. You can also talk to the people around you. It's fine, socialize, COVID is over. But basically, just think about the framework, current state, or what is your challenge, and then go with it. So you can fill it out for yourself. You can just make a quick note on your paper, just reviewing people, process, and technology. What I think is interesting as well is how you ask those questions. Because if I go into a company and I ask them, so what's your people challenge with referral management? They might not answer you, especially if they're in larger workshops. So what I tend to do is, my first question is, how does your process look like? Who is concerned with that process? Because that doesn't put the blame on anyone. We're not pinpointing like the person that is the bottleneck. We're asking them about the process. So who is in your process? Who's doing what? It's more of an open question, and then you can drill down further. So for example, if they're saying, well, in the process, we have involved the recruiters, the sourcing, the hiring managers, HR, you have these and these people and stuff, then you already know, okay, everyone is involved, so who's calling the shots? Who's guiding the process? And this is why I like to start up my questioning, and it sounds like an interrogation, but that's why I like to start up my questioning with my customers with, what is your process? Tell me about it. And then I go into the people part. For the technology, from my side, it's pretty easy because I know what the technology is going to be, but I'm also curious what doesn't work with their current technology. So this is especially helpful if you're pre-implementation, you're implementing a new tool. Even if you want to buy a new ATS, it's always important to ask yourself, why don't I like this technology at the moment? Is it really because of the technology? Is that really the point? Or is it actually the process and the people that don't match with the technology? I mean, as you said earlier, you have, for example, the challenge that the people are not really using the technology. But the technology could be great, it could be an amazing technology, but at the same time you need to heighten the adoption, it's the training, it's the enablement. So tech is fine, keep the tech, but change people and process. Thank you. I appreciate the input. So this is basically how you establish your challenge and your current state and really drill down to the details. I just mapped it out a little bit. In this case, it was the employee tells the hiring manager or recruiter they have a referral, or just give them the paper CV. They just kind of print it out, really compliant. But also they said that nothing is tracked within the ATS, so it was a huge challenge. The next thing we want to do is the desired outcome. So now think about it again. What do you want to do with your people? How many resources do you actually have to, work with referrals? Do we really need HR and hiring managers and, get everyone involved within the referral management? Or is it actually just the recruiters? In this case, the statement was pretty simple. They want the recruiters to receive all the referrals, and it was great. They're also saying referrals who do not come through the ATS will be rejected. Bold statement for a company who doesn't get a lot of candidates. So sometimes what we get from our customers are statements like this. We want everything to be in the system and nothing else gets accepted. And we love to challenge our customers. Also maybe because I'm German, I like to challenge a little bit and be like, hey, this is actually not good, what you're saying here. So this is where we note it in red, and we're saying you should not. If you have a referral, if it's a good candidate, please don't reject them, even if they're not coming the right way. Again, going back to the beginning, change is always nurturing, guiding, and inspiring. It's not forcing, and it's not putting up guardrails so it doesn't, move forward with the whole thing. Metrics. It's my favorite topic. So metrics. I know at the beginning when I asked you to note down metrics for referral management, what did you note down? Anyone? What's your metric for referral management?
Percentage of applicants.
Mm-hmm.
More engagement.
More engagement, okay.
The money we paid.
The money you paid, okay, so basically the expense you have with the referrals, this is a metric, okay. That's good, that's interesting. I didn't hear that, so it was not a critique, okay. It was more of like, this is interesting because I've heard that they tracked it before, but they didn't use it as a metric of success. Okay, someone else? Not critiquing anyone here.
Referral ratio.
Referral ratio, perfect. Successful number of candidates who were then hired. So one of my guiding principles for this one is measure what matters. We see companies hoarding data, more and more reports, everything has to be tracked. At the same time, for example, if we have 10 different metrics for change, for referral management, what do we do with them? It doesn't matter how many metrics we have if you don't use them to optimize. This is what I see a lot in consulting with customers, that I establish new reports. So they're saying, oh, I want to have a reporting about all these KPIs we're tracking. That's great, that's amazing if it gets automated. If you actually have to spend manual time in your recruiter's time to create those reports and you're not doing anything with those reports, you can just throw them in the trash. This is my personal opinion. Like, KPIs and metrics are just absolute bullshit if you don't use them to optimize. And this is why we need smart metrics for referral management and for any other element. I mean, some companies have different goals. So with some companies, I go into referral management and they're saying, well, we just want to get a lot of referrals because we don't have any, background story, how many referrals have we actually hired, etc. We just want to have the number of referrals. That's a great start. Other companies, they're a little further. They're, for example, saying, okay, how many referrals have we hired from our referral pool? And this is why it's really individual to the different companies, what kind of metrics they use. In this company, they wanted to use number of referrals submitted because they launched a new referral campaign, wanted to see, did we get more referrals in? And then also number of referrals hired, and then percentage of referrals as a source. So they wanted to just have more referrals and hire more. So it really depends, and it's really individual to the different companies. So those are the first steps of the baby starting to walk and getting ready for the marathon. Those are the first steps. You need to have them down. If you kick off a project and you're starting with, okay, let's revamp this and we need that, instead of looking back at what are our challenges, is our challenge the tech, the people, or the process, you will absolutely fail. Because we need to start with step one. We need to start with an action and see if that action has a positive reaction. Again, if it doesn't, so if this whole thing, if the desired outcome creates so much work for recruiters that they're just overwhelmed, it is not something that is aligned with the hiring success methodology because it has a negative outcome. It's more work for less, for less candidates sometimes even, because they're just launching a campaign, they don't know why, they don't know what the goal is. Stakeholders. Stakeholders is an interesting topic to all of us because in TA, we know a lot of times heads of TA, they like the change, they're thrilled by it, but then at the same time, finance comes in and they're like, no, we're not doing this. So basically, what you can do is you can map out your stakeholders. You can say, okay, who will be involved in this project? Who is important for this project? So now I'll give you a couple seconds to just write down who do you think are the stakeholders in a referral management project? Who is concerned if we change something with referral management? Oh gosh, this doesn't work. That's great. Okay, so when we think about stakeholders, there are a lot of different stakeholders. And if we have a big change management project, we need to know where are the blockers and where are the risks. Because sometimes we have some people who are against a change management project. So this is why, can everyone see this? All good? This is why we have this grid. And there we want to have who has influence, and is an opponent to our project. So for example, finance has a lot of influence, and they might also not be on board. Let me just put this in brackets. So this could be finance. Then we also have the weak opponents. They're against it, but no one really cares. That's great. Keep them in there.
That's great.
I also don't want to name any department because I don't know what you guys are working in. But weak opponents, if they're weak, they're an opponent. Don't even look at them. Don't startle them. And then we have also influential. Then we have the influential supporters. Most important ones. If you have influential supporters, that are on board with you. So for example, your CEO or your COO, they think it's great, or your head of people and culture. If they think this project is great, it's amazing to have them on board. And also, if they're influential and they're a supporter, they could also connect with the influential opponents. And then we have obviously also the weak supporters, who are also great, and they're also important. But what you want to do now is you want to look at your stakeholders that you mapped out, and you want to sort them into this grid. So who is an influential opponent? And then what do we do with them? Do we just kind of kick them in the foot and hope they're not coming back tomorrow? Like, what's going on with them? So what we can do with them is basically approach them. Sometimes we have opponents because they don't have knowledge. They don't know what's going on. I don't know if you ever encountered like an opponent in your organization. Do you know what their reason was for opposing a certain project? I'm sure you have a funny story.
We have a lot of.
Okay. So is there a specific reason you think they're, don't name names, specific reason why they're opposing projects? Most of them don't do it just because of fun. So.
Oh, sometimes lack of knowledge, sometimes they just want to influence something, so they are looking for topics where they feel they can somehow challenge us.
Yeah.
So it's different reasons.
And sometimes it looks like a sport.
We have them.
Czech habit, we are from the Czech Republic, so Czech habit.
Yes, so sometimes they challenge you. Sometimes they're opposed because it's their budget. And they're like, nope, we're not doing it. So what can we do with those people? I think in most cases, in pretty much all the cases I've seen, they're not doing it for fun. They're not just doing it to piss you off or whatever. It's lack of knowledge. It's lack of budget. It's also strategy, political. But what we want to do with them is either you get your influential supporter to figure that out, or you yourself can sit down with them. And I think a line of question is always important to have in mind. So teach them about the project. Why is referral management so important? Well, because we don't find any candidates. We need to do everything through networking. So recruiting in Microsoft security areas was all about referrals and networking. It was on LinkedIn. I mean, they get, I don't know how many hundreds of messages through LinkedIn, so it was not an option. We had to do every single thing through referrals. We had to involve the hiring managers. Hiring managers said, well, we don't have time for this, actually. So basically what we did, we actually stopped writing out job descriptions. The number of candidates didn't change because it was 0 anyways. But we also stopped sending them filler candidates. I mean, everyone knows that. Sometimes we just send a candidate through and we're like, okay, hopefully this gets them calmer a little bit. But we actually sat down with them and we're like, okay, let's build up this project again. How does this process look like for you in an ideal world? How many candidates would you want to see? Where are those candidates coming from? Could you look through LinkedIn with us? Actually, some of them didn't know how to look through LinkedIn. They didn't know how to do a search. So we sat down with them, we had a pizza party with them, and we tried to kind of bring them on board with this project to spend just half an hour per week with us. Half an hour turned into 45 minutes, turned into 1 hour, and then we created monthly pizza parties where they actually get pizza and beer. We're from Germany. And we actually went through LinkedIn to find the right people. But this is why I'm saying it's so important to map out your supporters or opponents, because you don't just want to drop them and not engage with them at all.
Yeah, I think you also said something that's very interesting. The example you gave, you don't need to always deal with your opponents or the people yourself. You can also use, you said like the influential supporter, so if the CFO is against it, what are you going to do against a CFO? It's not always super successful. Go to your CHRO. Say, can you help me shut this person up in a nice possible way? Right, so you can creatively think. I thought that was a very good point that you make. You don't always have to do it yourself. You need to map it out and find a way, but find a way doesn't always mean that you have the conversation. We ask you, hey, help me. That's a good
Exactly.
point.
Thanks, Tony. Actually, we work together. Feel free to chime in, everyone. No, seriously. It's just, I think it's important that we keep in conversations, because sometimes I I mean, the hiring success methodology, that's a methodology that's brought up by SmartRecruiters. It's product agnostic. So you can use it for any type of company, you can use it for any type of technology. At the same time, if you just take like one ounce of what I'm saying, or just like the framework of people, process, technology, that's already a start, but it has to get you thinking. I'm not saying this is the master solution for everything. The scoping card is not the master solution for everything, but it's something that brought us a lot closer to our customers because we could really map out this process. And actually what we're doing with those scoping cards is that before we kick off any project that is in terms of strategy, we fill out those scoping cards. Even pre-implementation with a lot of customers, Sarah and I, we just have a customer, they're really looking to, get those scoping cards filled out because they are about to implement SmartRecruiters. And they're not quite sure like what their challenge is. They know they hate the old system and something is broken. And I've actually never seen such a low maturity dashboard from any of the customers, like so much dissatisfaction. But for me, those are the times that I'm getting most interested in, because if every element on their HSBA, so on the survey, is red, that means something is going on. We just need to figure out what. And we create those scoping cards for pretty much every element in the recruiting function. To go back to stakeholders, these were the stakeholders that the customer determined were the most important for them. So it was head of TA, recruiter, the hiring manager, and also I thought it was a genius and I really loved it, their training department, because in their previous referral process, which was all manual, they also said we never trained our people to actually do it the right way. And we see that in a lot of cases is they're not getting trained. And this is the problem. This is why they're not adopting a technology, or this is why they're not adopting a process. And then I'll skip over this piece really quick, but basically after we have the scoping card, the main points filled out, we go into the approach. So we're looking into what can we achieve, how are we achieving it, are we running workshops, are we just running discovery sessions, etc. What are we doing? And this is really personal to each and every customer. And then we also create milestones. So for us, it was really important to just have our little check marks. Did we achieve this goal? Yes. Okay, next one. Did we achieve this? Yes, next one. And this is why in this case, we actually started with configuring the technology, because they never had it before. So we wanted to have the ideal process in the technology. And then we delivered the training. And then we also received the first referrals. And then when we did measure, we actually realized that there was such a high number of referrals submitted, but actually the number of referrals hired stayed exactly the same. So we changed the process a little bit. There are a lot of studies, and just side note, but there are a lot of studies that actually saying a monetary payment for referrals might not be the best solution. It might be something more tangible. Like for example, there was one company that gave out, really specific like lunch cards, Amazon cards. In Paris, for example, there was a company, they paid for 3 months of transport for their people. So it was actually something they felt every single day, because they're like, great, I don't have to pay for the metro again. So it was actually a nice thing to see, they're not just giving them money, which is a one-time value, but they're giving them something that they can, feel every single day. And I thought this was pretty neat. So what do we have to do? We have to assess. And how do we assess? We assess with the Hiring Success Business Assessment. We then plan. So where do we go? What is our desired outcome? We execute on that approach, and then we measure. And we just measure what matters. And this framework will actually help us to not end up in the 70% of change management projects who fail within the organizations. So I hope this was insightful, and you can obviously take those scoping cards with you. On the next slide, I have a QR code. So if you are interested in hiring success consulting in the HSBA, please scan this code. So this leads you to the DTC side. Our amazing partners, Gabby is here, So DTC is helping us with all the strategy work we're doing with our customers. They're supporting us. We got them Hiring Success certified. They went through the whole course. So they're amazing consultants for the companies. And they're also speaking Hungarian, so it's perfect. And then on the left-hand side, you can also connect with me. And I hope this was insightful. And you got a little bit of knowledge about the Hiring Success methodology. If you have questions, please feel free to ask them or just come to me up to me afterwards. Thank you so much.